What would you say to someone who was victimized by a prophecy? Someone who sold their house, moved across the country, gave up their career because a man claimed he heard from God and he didn't. Bill Johnson's answer was, I think it's worth it. If your chest is tightened, if your jaw clenched, if something in you said, that was me, well, stay with me because today I'm not just reacting to a video. I'm naming what that moment actually did to your body. And I'm going to tell you what your nervous system already knows, that spiritual bypassing, and it was not okay. Welcome to Elisha Space, a sanctuary for healing growth and for the kind of honest conversations that actually change things. I'm Elisha, your host, a counselor and author, and someone who has sat in the same stuck places you have. If you've been listening for a while, I see you, and I'm glad that you're back. If you're new here, welcome home. Today's episode is practical, clinical, but pastoral. We're reacting to a 73-minute Bethel Church family meeting, a meeting where Bill Johnson, Chris Fallaton, and Dan Farrelly stood in front of their own staff and students and answered questions about the Shawn Bolz prophecy scandal. And there was a moment where Bill Johnson was asked directly, what would you say to the people who feel victimized by the prophetic? And his answer was, I think it's worth it. So stay with me because we're going to clip through this video, and at every point where spiritual bypassing shows up, every place where pain gets minimized, where theology gets weaponized to silence the wounded, I'm going to pause. I'm going to name it from a counselor's seat. And I'm going to give you the clinical and theological framework that your body already knows. Just 1 second as I pull it up, guys. Okay, I'm going to play this.
You said a lot, but I really think we want to hear from you.
I think, if I can be totally frank, I think it's worth it. I think becoming a part of what God's doing here, in spite of the failures, in spite of the blemishes, in spite of the wrong decisions. That's not who we are. It's what we've done. Yes. I would say, I know. I'm not sure if this is the right something to say it, but Caiaphas prophesied that Jesus was going to die for the nation, bring the whole nation together in one. He was a man with a murderous heart. He was a devil of killing Jesus, but God used him to bring the word of the Lord. Don't be real quick to throw out anything that you hear from somebody who has been lost. I don't know if they'll sense one night.
Let's just sit with this for a minute. He said it's worth it. Worth it. Worth whose pain? Because when you say it's worth it to someone whose life was dismantled by a fabricated prophecy, you are not offering comfort. You are offering minimization. Here's what spiritual bypassing actually is, and this is the clinical definition. It's the use of spiritual beliefs, practices, or languages to avoid facing unresolved emotional wounds, psychological pain, or developmental needs. In pain language, it's when spirituality becomes a shield that protects the system from accountability rather than a mirror that reflects the truth. And what we just heard is textbook. Let me break it down. He immediately pivoted to Caiaphas, a biblical figure who's prophesied correctly despite having a murderous heart. Do you see what just happened? A human being sitting in that room who was victimized, and instead of holding that victim's pain, he reached for a theological illustration that says God can use even the corrupt to bring about his purposes. That's not comfort, that's redirection. That's taking the spotlight off the wounded person and putting it on God's sovereignty. And here's what your body knows. Your nervous system knows that when someone redirects your pain towards a theological abstraction, you deregulate because your pain was not witnessed, it was replaced. This isn't visualization. This is physiology. When your pain is bypassed, your vagus nerve registers it as a threat because the person who should have been a safe harbor just told you that the harm done to you was worth it for the bigger picture. That is not safety. That is spiritual gaslighting. Now I'm going to show the next clip. Hey, acting listening. I'm sharing my screen so that you can see this. Just bear with me.
But it's one of the things that Chris has emphasized for years. As the Old Testament, we judge the prophet. In the New Testament, we judge the word that was given. But we do have that responsibility. So I just want to encourage you, maybe I don't know if this is the right time for it or not, but just if you received a prophetic word from somebody that you question, go ahead and question this, but don't flush it unless you know for sure it's not from the Lord. Put it on a shelf. Let it ferment. You must see if God actually uses it to speak to you. Because
Don't flush it. Put it on a shelf. Let it ferment. I want you to hear what this instruction does to a trauma survivor. When someone fabricated a prophecy deliberately that changed your life, your finances, your family, and the leader of that community says, hold on to it, it might still be from God. That is doubling the cognitive load on a person who is already in a trauma response. Here's what I mean clinically. A trauma survivor is already in a state of hypervigilance. Their nervous system is scanning for danger cues. When you say, don't discard that word, it might still be valid, you're asking them to hold the very thing that hurt them in an ambiguous state. You're saying, you can't be sure this wasn't from God. And that ambiguity is the exact condition that keeps trauma looping because the brain cannot close the loop. It cannot categorize the experience as resolved when the authority figure is keeping the file open. This isn't a pastoral care decision. This is a neurological consequence, and your body already knows it. If you've ever held onto a word that hurt you because someone told you it might still be valid, your nervous system has been carrying that open loop. And carrying open loops costs you energy, it costs you sleep, it costs you trust in your own discernment. Father, I am grateful that you made these bodies and that you knit together the very nervous systems that we're learning to regulate. And I am grateful that your peace is not dependent on our circumstances being resolved. It is on a regulated nervous system and the presence of a safe God. And that God does not ask you to old to hold open loops. Let me get ready and prepare to do the next one. I hope this is helping you guys. Did I share my screen? Let me do that one again. I apologize. I thought I shared my screen. Let's see. Oh, I did? Okay, good. Okay, good. Thank you. Good. I was like, oh no, I hope I didn't. All right, let me share my screen.
You so reject the negative that you tend to not, at a moment when you're hearing it, you're so used to saying, I'm going to believe the best, you don't see it. And so I believe that is the heart of God for us, that we would always see the goal, that is the heart. And if there is
It's a blind spot because you don't know it's there. So the blind spots I have, it's not that I don't know it's there, it's I think something else is there. I don't know if that's ever occurred to you.
Just a minute, guys. I'm just trying to find that clip. If not, if I can't find it, I'll do a description of what he says.
It sounds like there's nothing there. I look and go, that thing's fabulous. And it ain't fabulous. So there's like a misunderstanding that's really sitting there or wreaking havoc in my thinking, my decisions. So those would be some of the ways.
excellent. And
So I'm not sure if it's here. I'm sorry. I thought I had notated it as it should have been. But the clip was about honor culture. And it talked about how honor culture should be the underbelly of it. So actually, I did play it because Dan just named it. He said that the underbelly of their culture of honor is that you so reject the negative that you tend to not at a moment when you're hearing it. You're so used to saying, I'm going to believe the best, you don't see it. So that was correct. So let me translate this into a clinical language. This is a system designed to suppress truth telling. And I don't say that to attack Bethel. I say that because I have sat across from people in my counseling office who came out of honor culture churches, and they all describe the same pattern. The same pattern. You notice something wrong, you voice it. And the response is not, thank you for telling me. The response is, you're not seeing this through the lens of honor. You need to believe the best. And what that does physiologically, it trains your nervous system to suppress your own internal alarm signals. Your body sends a danger cue, something is not right here. And the spiritual authority says, override that signal with faith. That is not faith. That is learned disassociation. And Dan's admission is actually the most honest moment in this entire video. He named the mechanism. The mechanism is we trained ourselves to override discernment with optimism. And that optimism became a cover for predators. Before we go deeper, if this is resonating with you, if you are someone who has been in an honor culture environment and you felt that pressure to suppress what you saw, I want you to know that there is a framework for this. I built the REST framework specifically for this space. The space between being told, just trust more, and your body saying something is wrong. Regulate, experience, surrender, trust. But real surrender, not disassociation. You can download the free guide in the description. You'll see it in the description. And if you text this episode to one person you know who is still in that space, one person who is still overriding their own alarm signals, you might just be that safe harbor that they need today. Moving on to the next the next clip. Bear with me so I pull it up for you guys. Girl, I know it was a lot. A lot. All right, so just one moment.
If there's one thing I could change, it would be the one thing. I need you to know, my friend, of mine, I used a biblical concept that I live by, but I misapplied it. So I want you to make sure that you hear that and misapply it. And I'll tell you how in a moment. Jesus called Peter a rock when he was a broken reed. Called Gideon mighty man of Bethel when he was hiding for fear. And so I've looked for awkward situations to speak something for what I believe is Lord for that individual. Even if circumstances look the opposite. I started practicing that in we are going 40 years ago. And it's a standard that I have lived by, and I've been able to call people into their destiny. I blew it on this one and have badly. I was a member of had considered the effect it would have on the victims. I never would have done, but I didn't. I only had one thing in mind, and that was I want to get into this and deposit something of faith, of courage into somebody that has benefited. I did Shawn's wedding, Shawn Cherie. I did their wedding, so we all had this good one. That is listen. Sorry, Roland.
Hmm. Well, that's good. That's good. Acme listening. I'm happy for you. That's good. Mm. Now, this is the moment that cost me the most. Bill Johnson met with a victim. And then after meeting with the victim, he went on TBN and wrote an endorsement. He said he was using a biblical principle. Jesus called Peter a rock when he was a broken reed. Jesus called Gideon a mighty man of valor when he was hiding in fear. And he said, and I want you to hear this, I misapplied it. I actually want to honor that admission because that is the rarest thing in church leadership, saying, I misapplied scripture. Most leaders never say that. They defend the application. Bill said he got it wrong. But here's where the counselor's seat demands more honesty. The impact of that misapplication was a victim sat across from him, shared her pain, and then watched the man who witnessed her pain publicly endorse the person who caused it. And I need you to hear the neurological consequence of that. When you share your trauma with someone in authority, when you open the wound and that person then sides with your abuser in a public forum, your nervous system categorizes that authority as unsafe, not because they're evil, because the sequence of events told your body, this person will witness my pain and then act against my protection. That's not a theological error. That's a relational rupture. And relational ruptures require relational repair, not a theological correction. Bill corrected his theology, but I don't see the relational repair yet, and I'll be watching for it. Pulling up the next clip. There's so much. There's so much. Okay. And now I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me as I pull it up.
A different question, just real quick. The part of the grief is why it took. So when this is happening, why did it take 5 years for us to do this? What were we doing? I mean, I had an idea of what we were doing. What were we doing? What did we delay? So what you're saying is there's a mixture going on, and you're seeing it. That's what I'm saying. But still, then it takes us 5 years to actually move towards action. And even then, we only move into action because of internet was.
The internet thing, we have spent so much energy having critical videos sent towards us and conversation. So, the thing that is your greatest strength will become your greatest weakness. The reason it took a video at that, it was not because we weren't, it was just that there's a innate nature to ignore what is being said consistently for decades over a criticism about everything we're doing. So it took a wake up call like that. I don't think it was that we weren't lit. It was just our innate was no.
I think it's multifaceted. And when you have so many accusations, of grave sucking, this or that, you're just like done with you guys. They come near. If you won't pay attention, that Bill doesn't think of this as God the Son. There's a frustration, a subnatal that you're just done dealing with accusations. I think we gotta.
Okay. accusation fatigue. They named it. They said, we had so many accusations coming at us, we just stopped listening. Let me name what that actually is from a counselor's perspective. When a system, a church, a family, a workplace develops accusation fatigue, it means they have structural insulation. Structural insulation means the people at the top are surrounded by layers of loyalty that filter out dissent before it reaches them. And here's the thing, the people who did reach them with warnings were treated as accusers, not as truth tellers. And I need to name this clearly: in a spiritually bypassing system, the person who raises concern is pathologized. They're told they're critical, they're bitter, they're lacking faith. And the system protects itself by reframing the whistleblower as the problem. If you've ever been in a position where you said something is wrong and you were told you're just being negative, your nervous system registered that as punishment for truth telling. And that punishment teaches your body, don't speak up. Speaking up is dangerous. That is how shame enters the body, not through what happened to you, but through what happened when you told someone what happened to you. Next clip. Oh, I'm on it today because I've been doing research on this, and I was just like, I have to say something. I am so tired of seeing people that of seeing these kinds of things. They have to be called out. They just have to be. Okay, let me share my screen. All right, let me play this. Oh, it needs to go back just a little bit. Just a second. Okay, that's close enough.
Stating what's we're leading now with what the so Father, we begin anyway you love that man. You love him, man. He's made in your image, you gave your life that he might be conformed to the image of your son. And so we again, every single one of us have received grace we didn't deserve. Mm-hmm. It's no just for our brother. We pray you mark him and his wife and his family for your powerful conviction that leads to godly sorrow, that leads to a crying out and saying, I would be healed. I would be healed. And I love you. And so we just, as Bill's taught so many times, we just say in the presence of laying under the Holy Spirit, mark him for an encounter that transforms him. Yes. And again, if you're worried like that, he's going to get back into the street, that's not where I'm going. He needs a touch from Jesus that brings him to his senses. And so again, we just say, let it be an object of grace. Let it be one of the trophies in your house of like, yeah, that man, like, I walked heaven and earth to reach him again when he was lost and alone. And so we love that part like you, Jesus, when we say extended, we show them in the justice. Wow.
I'll stop sharing my screen and then give you the analysis. Yes. Yep. All right. So listen to the language of this prayer. Mark him for an encounter. Let him be an object of grace. Let him be a trophy in your house. Now listen. This is not about whether we should pray for someone who has caused harm. We should. Gospel people pray for those who persecute them. That's real. But I want you to notice the asymmetry. The prayer for Shawn is detailed, specific, passionate. He gets language about transformation, conviction, grace, a touch from Jesus that brings him to his senses. And then at the time mark 1:11:55, then they pray for the victims and the language shifts. It becomes general. Your love, your care, your mercy, your wholeness. Reverse the situations. God can use every situation for good. Do you hear the difference? For the perpetrator, specific, hopeful, transformative language. For the victims, general, passive, circumstantial language. And I'm not saying this was intentional. I'm saying this is what happens automatically in a spiritually bypassing system. The system has more theological language for the redemption of the offender than it does for the recovery of the wounded. That asymmetry is not a prayer problem, it's a culture problem. And it tells the victims in that room and the victims watching this video that the system has more emotional infrastructure for fixing the person who caused harm than it does for holding the person who received it. Next clip. Bear with me as I share my screen.
It has to change in our environment is the victim has to come first, no matter who we're dealing. And when it kills a and also, and I'll say this is a shift for me. We have to understand that when there's a powerful person in the room, whether it be a Bill Cosby who's famous, or there's a pastor or a business person, someone powerful, someone has a money influence, the people will do things for them. That they'll behave in ways that are not righteous. And they really are a victim of that person's power. And then when there is a fall, when they're being violated, they fear that there's retribution if they come out. I grew up with Bill Cosby, and it's obviously I'm defining my age, but it took years for the first victim to come out for what he was doing. I mean, we have to learn from that. Like there really is people really are victimized when there's a powerful leader in the room and cannot be blamed for their part of that.
Mhm.
And that is
This is the moment that I want to honor, where the statement was made, the victim has to come first, no matter who. And he said something that was genuinely new for him. When there's a powerful person in the room, whether it be a Bill Cosby, a pastor, someone with money or influence, people behave in ways that are not righteous, and they are victimized by that person's power, and they cannot be blamed for their part of that. That is the most clinically accurate statement in this entire video, and I want to name why it matters. Because power dynamics are invisible to most church cultures. Church cultures are built on honor hierarchies, and honor hierarchies assume that the person at the top has the most spiritual authority and the most access to God, the most credibility. What they don't account for is that power, spiritual, social, financial power, creates coercion conditions. When the person on stage has the power to bless your marriage, bless your ministry, bless your future, and they say, I have a word for you, your nervous system does not have the option to say no, because the cost of saying no to a spiritual authority and an honor culture system is excommunication from belonging, and belonging is survival. So while this admission is significant, he named the power dynamic. He named that victims cannot be blamed for their compliance under coercion. That is a clinical truth, and it's theological truth. And I want to honor what he said. Let me bring this into your body now, because we've been doing a lot of cognitive work, naming the bypassing, naming the theology, naming the power dynamics, but your nervous system has been listening to all of this. And if you're in a church like this, if you were in any environment where spiritual bypassing happened to you, your body is carrying it right now. Is there tension there? Tightness in your forehead, your jaw? Maybe your shoulders just crept up. That's your sympathetic branch, your fight or flight system responding to the memory of being told your pain was worth it. So let's do a 60-second regulation practice together, right now, where you are. Hands on your chest, just rest them there. Notice the weight of your own hands. That weight is real. You are real. Now take a breath, not a big one, just a natural one, and let your exhale be longer than your inhale. Let your nervous system hear that you are not running from this. You are staying, you are safe, and your pain is not worth it. Your pain is real. And it deserves to be witnessed, not bypassed. Here's the theological reframe that spiritual bypassing systems never teach you. Because they teach you that God's sovereignty means your suffering must have a purpose, and that purpose justifies the system that allowed it. But listen, God's sovereignty does not require your suffering to be productive. God can redeem what was done to you, that is true, but redemption does not justify what was done. The cross redeems betrayal. The cross does not endorse betrayal. His peace is not dependent on your circumstances being resolved. It is a regulated nervous system in the presence of a safe God. And a safe God does not say it was worth it when you are bleeding. A safe God sits with you in the bleeding. A safe God weeps with you. A safe God holds the person who caused the harm accountable, not as punishment, but as justice, because justice is what makes the system safe for the next person. So the question is not, was it worth it? The question is, who's going to make sure it never happens again? And that question requires structural change, not just theological reflection. If you've been listening for a while, you know I don't do this work from a distance. I've sat in the same rooms. I've heard the same, believe the best when something was clearly wrong. I've carried the same open loops that someone told me to put on a shelf and let ferment. And I know what it costs your body to hold those. Nothing is wrong with you. Your body is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's just stuck. And the thing that stuck it was a system that told you your alarm systems were lack of faith instead of discernment. Knowledge isn't just power for trauma survivors. Knowledge is safety. And today, you have more knowledge. You can name spiritual bypassing. You can name spiritual gaslighting. You can name power dynamics. And naming is the first step towards regulating. Until next time, you are not too much, you are not too far, and you are not alone. And if this episode helped you, share it. Text it to one person you know is struggling, one person you know who is carrying an open loop that someone told them was from God. You might be the person who helps them close it. I will be on again in a couple hours because I am on what's the word? I am so riled up about some of the things that I've researched and found. But I will be back on and doing another. Right, right, right. Oh my gosh. Yes. Like, yes, yes. And so people who are probably on Facebook and remember what I'm talking about. So I'm, yes, 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 8874. That is correct. That is so correct. That is so correct. That is spiritual bypassing to the 1000th degree. Yes, yes. So I will be back on in a couple of hours to do another reaction because I am just kind of like on a rampage. I'm finding all that I've been doing some research and doing reading some information, news articles, and things of that nature about different situations that have been happening. And then I don't know if I'll do it today. I might do it tomorrow. I'll do another. I'll do another reaction on something else. But I know for sure I'll be doing another one in a couple of hours. So I will talk to you guys later. I hope you are having a fantastic, fantastic day and enjoying. It's raining here, but I'm hoping somewhere it's not raining and that you guys are enjoying the day. So I will see you later, and you have a great day. Bye bye. I'll see you in a couple hours.